Bum, 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 bum. Dun dun! That had the desired effect. Welcome to part 3 of Daily 476, where we just love to get ourselves all LiquidRet. Yeah. At this last juncture, we were looking at this game state, where we see a big attack coming, but LiquidRet has effectively set himself up a very nice defense. And this all relates back to the idea of when we're making transitions, being aware of how long this transition is. With Zerg, the transitions tend to be some of the clearest in the game. Zerg has very easy time identifying where their transition difficulties are. Something like, I need my frickin' Greater Spire to finish, because then I can instantly morph 10 Broodlords. And once those 10 are done, I'm good. For the other races, it can be a little bit difficult. Something like, I need tanks to be able to stay alive. How long? 3 tanks? 4 tanks? 5 tanks? Those are all about a minute apart, so I better know. Those things can be a little bit more difficult, but still there's nothing too tricky about that. The important thing that we brought up in part number 1 is that if we identify this length of time, we can see clearly where our weak points are, and we saw a weak point crop up there. In this game, we have stated, yeah, I need to be able to stay alive till 18 minutes. That's about the earliest I can get Broodlords. Here I have 100 seconds for the Greater Spire, and then my Corruptors are going to have to spend 40 seconds morphing into Dem Broodlords. So the fact that we have a lot of defense up by 16 minutes makes just so much sense. It makes so much sense that it just doesn't make sense. And here we see Sase kind of attempting a similar push that he did before. I want to notice a couple key differences in this game in part 3 when compared to the one in part 1. In this game in part 3, we already have a lot of spines done. We have more infestors. And most importantly, we're bringing those counterattack harassment units back. Big storms! Sase, a very good Protoss player, and I emphasize that a lot because this is a scary push from a really good player, does get defeated here. And a lot of this is thanks to these Happy Time Mutalisks pulling back. It was not necessarily an easy swap down by LiquidRet, but that's about as easy as they come. And remember this Roach Warren? Oh yeah, I remember that. We're going to come all the way back to 14 minutes when we just decided to go for this frickin' hive in the first place. Come on, hive. There's the hive coming up. We had just finished a Roach Warren. A lot of Zerg players will die at around 16 to 17 minutes and not see what adjustments to make there are. I want you to notice that this Roach Warren is done from the entire time of 14 minutes to 18 minutes. In other words, the Roach Warren is done for the entire time length of the transition to Broodlords. So, if there were ever an emergency, such as the one that we are about to be at, the one that we just witnessed, if there's an emergency, we can just build a bunch of roaches. So we're going to go ahead and X8 our way through this. We are in this transition period relying on largely spines, but the instant an emergency begins, we look at this roach production that starts to spring up. Just mass defensive roach production to keep us alive in the transition. When the attack starts to look like we're going to win it, we stop the roaches and go right on back to lanes. We stop spending that gas. And now we can begin flooding the Corruptors. I'm almost going to ignore the Mutalisks because obviously harassing with Mutalisks at this point, I mean, what are we going to say? We're trying to buy 30 seconds. But it is true. You do need 30 more seconds. You pretty much can't attack in these 30 seconds, though. Killing free warp prisms, always a good technique for winning. But hey, we made it to 18 minutes. We're a little distracted, so our Broodlords didn't quite get started in time. But hey, there we are. Is this game easy or what? Oh my god, StarCraft 2, the easiest game. That's why I play it, because I like free wins. Easy game. It's easy now. So, alright, cool. We got our Army of Death up. No more fear, no more despair. Only ruin for Protoss and his friends. God, StarCraft 2 is just the easiest game that I have ever played. Look at this. Now, here's kind of an interesting thing to note, that in terms of unit mixes, we're not going to really be changing anymore. We're going Ling, Broodlord, Infestor, Spinecrawler, Expand. We're just doing that. However, there still are transitionary periods that aren't quite as sharp. So, for instance, this, getting up this expansion. What would defend this expansion? Well, if we built a hatch and then built a bunch of spines. How long does a hatch take to build? Oh, gee, 100 seconds. How long do spinecrawlers take to build? Well, they take, 50 seconds. So this is about 3 minutes from starting this hatch to finishing it up. So again, you can still think in these sorts of periods. I can do a push. Like, here's something nice. I can do a push with Broodlord Infestor while starting an expansion. So long as the push takes 3 minutes to complete, I'll have an expansion up and completely defended with spines. Sase being really good and doing Archon Zealot drops, but they get shut down. And Ret is going to slowly crawl his way forward. Now, it's important to note that if you walk into the room right now, you couldn't tell if Ret went Roaches or Hydras or Mutalisks. You literally would not really be able to tell by just sort of glancing at the screen. You'd probably assume actually that he went Roaches, especially given the fact that, you know, you see the Roach War and you see some Roaches, some small numbers of Roaches, but mainly this Ling, Broodlord, Infestor mix. However, the reason that you can't tell is because Ret did a good transition. If you have a lot of ugly stuff, just this mid-game detritus left over, then probably your transition can be cleaned up a bit. Like, if you're at this phase as LiquidRet and you have, like, I don't know, 20 Mutalisks left over that aren't really able to do stuff, then you can say things like, gee, I maybe should have teched earlier. If I can stay alive plus 20 Mutalisks, then I can cut out 19 of those Mutalisks. Or 20. I don't know why I said 19. You can cut them out because you're going to be safe, right? And as a result, you can get your transition up faster. Now, if you were intending to go Mutalisk all game long, and you were in a much different game state, like we were at the 35-minute mark, and you've been harassing with Mutalisk all game, then okay, yeah, I'm totally on board with that. But if your goal is to just get up Broodlords, and get up this Infestor Spinecrawler Broodlord army, if you have a lot of Mutalisks left over, then you did not transition quickly enough. You transition safely but slowly. Which is something that I guess I won't really go into too much depth on today. Suffice to say that Ret's good. Dun, da, 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 da. LiquidRet! Oh, GG. GG. Let us take some bloody questions. Oh, the chat's died. The chat is dead. Oh my god. Chat. 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 I miss you. And I miss you more than ever. Where the hell are you? I need your questions now more than ever. This is what I'd like. If you could tweet me at Day9TV with your questions, then I'd be happy to answer the questions because my chat is gone. It isn't here. Right now I'm refreshing Twitter. Refreshing a little bit of Twitter. Let me see if I can hop on the Twitterverse. I don't think there's anything incriminating on this screen. How many Broodlords are too many? Never. Broodlords are amazing. Broodlords are so good. I'll take this one from Logan Hagort. A long time ago, you did a daily on Xenio's Ling Hydra transition into Muta. Do you think this is still viable with the current meta gam? Typos make me giggle. Oh, man. Do I think so? I mean, I don't know. The reason I don't know is because the timings seem just very thin. It might be one of those things like it delays you by 1 minute too much, and within that 1 minute you are vulnerable and die. But I don't think there's anything wrong with doing the sort of Hydralisk transition that we saw Xenio do. I mean, the builds have not really changed tremendously much. Protosses are tending to expand on 4 or 5, actually more like 5 or 6 gateways and a robo now. They take their third with that mix, and that's kind of hard to penetrate with just Hydralisks, but I think defensively just going Ling and then getting some Hydra and then popping over into Mutalisk would end up being fine. I don't see too much of a problem with it. I love this question from Matthew Marine. What a name! I hope your name is actually Marine. Day 9, why did Zerg only build mutas and drones? Or why did he only build mutas and drones or infestors? I see. Why is it that Zerg was building either mutalisks and drones or infestors and drones, but he was not going mutaling? Yeah. I'm so glad you asked, Matthew Marine. The reasoning behind it is that if you go for too many mutaling, then how do I say this? Okay, this is the way I would say it. I'm gonna give this answer in the structure of what it would be like for you on the ladder if you started losing. So let's say you start off with a mutaling build, and you're going Mutalisks and Zerglings in the mid-game instead of mutas and drones, like what Rhett did. You go mutas and Zerglings, like Matthew Marine was asking. And then what happens is you get attacked at around 16 or 17 minutes, and you just needed 1 more minute till those Broodlords were done. At 18 minutes, you could have had those Broodlords up, but you die at that 17-minute mark. So what happens? You think, well, gosh, I have to counterattack even harder with my Mutaling. So you continue to counterattack harder, and what you find is that then you're kind of base trading at 16 or 17 minutes. And you're like, well, gosh, if I'm base trading, then why the hell am I going for these Broodlords so fast? I'm just not going to get them. I base trade at 17 minutes. In other words, the Zerglings are just not really helping me very much defending this big-ass attack that's happening at around 16 or 17 minutes. They just don't help. They're amazing for counterattacking. They're amazing for pinning Protoss in there. But they're not good at defending this big attack. Therefore, one of 2 things will end up happening. 1, you will just not go for the Broodlord transition. You'll say, damn it, I'm just going to stay Mutaling and I'll harass forever and win. And that's actually okay. It gets a little difficult, but it's completely reasonable and many players do it. Or what you say is, these Lings, they're just not very useful. So I'm just going to not build them and make drones instead. These drones can then turn into spine crawlers and keep me alive at that 16, 17 minute mark. It all comes down to that loss that happens at 16 or 17 minutes, and you just look at it and you're like, these Lings blow, man. Lings are terrible against storming, blinking, archoning, zealoting with upgrading things. Where did you get those replays? sc2rep.ru. Rafał asked the question about if the Protoss goes for an Immortal Sentry all-in, the popular 9-minute and 30-second push. What works very, very nicely in this sort of spot is to just abandon your like if they're really all-inning, you can actually abandon your third and just make like 15 spine crawlers at the top of your ramp and just counterattack his main. It's really cool. You have just like a shit ton of spines at the top of your ramp, your main, like just your main lives, and then you counterattack and kill him, and then you're 1 base versus 0 base, and you win. It's really slick. But more generally, this is why you start doing those big checks at around 9 minutes. Is he expanding? Is he starting to move out yet? Because if he is / isn't, then you can just flood with spine crawlers. Once you get enough Ling Muta spine up, you're going to be safe against it. However, I will note it's just hard to hold off. It's just a really good all-in. If you struggle, seems reasonable. Last question from Steve Sikari, right here. Is there a way to play late game ZvP without broods? Because I hate having a slow-moving army. Yes. Yes, there it is. I actually am increasingly enjoying the Ultra Ling Nidus play. Yeah, Ultra Ling Queen Infester. And Baneling. Holy crap, sorry, I thought I said that first. Like, Baneling Ultra Infester. Oh, he can't force field because your Ultralisk trampled down the force fields. So your Banelings wreck his face. It starts with going kind of like a Ling Infester defensive. You can get some Banelings in the mid game, but a lot of players rush for the Ultralisk, so then they have Ling Infester Ultralisk, and then they back up and get the Banes. And I think that's nifty too. But that's the answer. I'm done. I'm done. See you on Sunday for some subscriber mana battles at 7 p.m. Now, I know you beautiful Europe people have been asking for the Euro stuffs. It will happen within the month of July. I think I have to have tooth surgery coming up here, which is kind of... but don't worry. Even if I can't do a subscriber mana battle on a Sunday, I'll just do it on like Friday or a Wednesday. I'll just get up early. Just get up at 7 a.m. I don't give a damn. And then we'll play. So, subscriber mana battles on Sunday. The Fun Day Monday for next week will be the following. Oh yeah. Get an Infester and use that Infester to Neural Parasite the enemy worker, using that worker to build up his race and then killing him with his race. That's it. Hope to see you on Monday and Sunday. Submit those to Monday at day9.tv. Aw, yeah. Thank you for watching.